โอเคใครเข้ามาก็ขอสวัสดีด้วยนะครับสวัสดีครับผมโอเคก็วันนี้ก็จะมาเรียนคอร์สนะครับที่ผมซื้อมาพอดีว่าผมเรียนคนเดียวแล้วผมรู้สึกเหมือนแบบมันไม่มีแรงกระตุ้นนะฮะผมเลยมาไลฟ์สตรีมเพื่อที่ว่าแบบไม่รู้ดิผมอยากสตรีมไปด้วยอะไรวะเดี๋ยวสักครู่นะฮะคิดว่าจะเรียนถึงสักประมาณเที่ยงคืนนะครับก็ตอนนี้3 ทุ่มตอนนี้3 ทุ่มถ้าไม่ติดธุระอะไรนะนี่สวัสดีทุกคนนะครับเข้ามาก็ทักทายกันได้นะครับผมตั้งใจจะเรียนให้จบนะฮะเพื่อที่แบบว่าผมจะได้เอาไปต่อยอดเอาไปสร้างโปรดักต์นะครับอันนี้ผมซื้อมาเนี่ยผมมีจุดมุ่งหมายนะฮะไม่ได้ซื้อมาเรียนแล้วแบบว่าทิ้งๆคว้างๆโอเคเดี๋ยวเรามาเริ่มกันเลยสวัสดีครับผมใครเข้ามาก็สวัสดีด้วยนะฮะก็ใครที่เข้ามาก็อันนี้จะมาสตรีม study with me นะครับก็เหมือนกับว่าเรียนรู้ไปกับฉันอะไรประมาณเนี้ยนะครับพอดีว่าซื้อคอร์สมาก็อยากจะมาเรียนนะฮะเดี๋ยวไม่ได้เรียนอีกนะครับโอเคนะฮะก็เดี๋ยวจะสตรีมไว้นะครับจะไม่ได้ค่อยพูดหรอกเพราะว่าเดี๋ยวจะตั้งใจเรียนนะฮะเป็นนักเรียนที่ดีทำไมมันไม่เห็นแชทก็เดี๋ยวจะสลับมาแล้วโอเคเริ่มกันเลยนะครับ
Instead of just selecting it in the CSS using the header element selector, it's because we want a class name on each and every element here in the HTML. But we're going to talk a bit more about CSS architecture later in the course, where all of this will make sense. Okay, and just for now, let's simply put
อันนี้ก็นั่งสบายๆนะฮะแบบคือถ้าง่วงก็หลับไปเลยไม่รู้เรื่อง
some text here. So some text.
เดี๋ยวเอาอันนี้ไว้นี่ดีกว่าโอ้มองไม่เห็นเลยจริงๆว่าจะซื้ออีกจออยู่นะครับมันจะสะดวกกว่านี้เลย
Okay, and just for now,
แต่นี่ก็ต้องพับจอไปมามันอาจจะดูหงุดหงิดบ้างแต่ก็เนาะเวลาผมเรียนผมก็เรียนอย่างนี้นะแบบสลับแท็บเพราะว่ามีจอเดียวไงแต่มันไม่ใช่ปัญหาครับนะฮะอย่าไปคิดว่ามันเป็นปัญหาเรา
simply put some text here. So some text, and that's enough for the HTML for now. Remember, we just want this big box with the background.
ลืมเปิดนี้view terminal live serverตอนนี้คอร์สก็ลดอยู่นะฮะใครอยากสนใจก็ไปซื้อมาได้นะครับนี่ Advanced CSS and Sass นะครับ
image and the color and then that shape that we just saw. Okay, so let's now head over to our CSS file and start writing some CSS. Now the first thing I'm going to do is to perform a basic reset. And maybe if you took my other CSS course, then you might remember that I used something called normalize.css in order to make a cross-browser reset. So in order to make every browser render the page in the exact same way. Now doing so is still valid, but I have found that browsers are actually getting better and better and more consistent in the way that they render a website. and so that's no longer really necessary, and so I don't do it anymore. And so let's just do a simple reset using the universal selector. So just like this. So the universal selector will select each and every element on the page and then apply these declarations here to it. So we want a margin on all of them of 0 pixels, and of course also a padding of 0. So by default, browsers apply a certain margin or a certain padding to some elements. Like for example an H1 element, so the main heading, there's always some margin in it, and we don't want any of that. So this allows us basically to start clean, without the browser adding any margins or paddings that we don't want to our elements. Now another thing that
อันนี้ผมไม่ได้หลับนะทุกคนผมนั่งฟังเขาอยู่นะครับเพราะว่าเขาอธิบายอยู่
we're going to do is to set the box sizing property to border box. So border box. And if you're not familiar with box sizing border box, what this does is to change the box model so that the borders and the paddings are no longer added to the total width or the total height that we specify for a box. So without this, any paddings and borders are added to the height or the width of an element, which really isn't helpful for us, and so with this we're getting rid of that behavior. Alright, and next let's set some overall font properties for the entire web page. And this time we're not going to do it in the universal selector, but in the body element selector. And why do we do it this way? Well, we do it because the properties related to font are usually inherited. So we're using the power of inheritance here. And I'm going to explain everything there is about inheritance in the next section, so we have a whole lecture just about inheritance in CSS. But what you need to know for now is that we set, for example, the font family on the body element, which is basically the parent element of all the other elements, and then this font family will get inherited by all the child elements of the body. Okay? And doing it this way is actually more efficient, and it's a better practice than to just put all of this in the universal selector up here. Okay, so we never do that. Everything related to font we always specify it here in the body selector. So we set the font family to Lato, and if that's not available, then just some sans serif. Okay, and I can use Lato because I already included it here in the HTML. So as I said in the beginning, this comes from Google Fonts, and it's a font that I have already included. So if you're not familiar with this, it's really simple. You can just go to Google Fonts and find it out. Okay, so I included Lato with the font weights of 100, 300, 400, 700, and 900. So let's set the overall font weight to just 400. Font weight 400. Also the overall font size should be 16 pixels, and the line height of, let's say, 1.7. So basically line height 1.7 means that it's 1.7 times bigger of what this extension does. So, and with this code we just performed a basic reset, and we also set the project-wide font definitions here in the body selector because they will all be inherited to their child elements. Okay, and with that in place, let's start formatting the header element. And remember, it has the header class. So we use the class selector and then header. And let's just create some space here. Okay. So let's start by defining the height. And let's set it to 95 VH. And in case you're not sure what this does, is basically we say that at every point the height of this box, of this element, should be 95% of the viewport height. Now we could put 100 here, then the element would always be exactly the same height as the viewport, but I chose to go with 95 to make it not 100%, but only almost 100%. Okay, and let's now set the background image. So I start typing background, but instead of having to write all the way until background and then image, I can just start writing image right now, because the text editor will recognize that I'm looking for background image. You see, it already recognized that that's what I want. And this will also work in your text editor. So you can just do the same, and you don't have to write all the code like background image, but instead just back EMG and then it works. So press enter and that's it. Now the background image that we want is here in the image folder. So it is called hero, I think. Yes, so that's the one we want, right? You see, it's this one here. Okay. And we specify an image by writing URL and then specifying the path to the image. Now we're currently in the CSS folder, so we first have to go one folder up to go into the project folder, and so it's / then img, so image, and then the name of the image, hero.jpg, and that's it.
What?
Header. If you're wondering why all of them elements of the body. Okay. First green, the lighter one, and then comma. Now what we also of the content
กดผิดนะฮะ
and also
โอเคถึงนี้
so the natives folder here, and then from there we went into the image folder and then hero.jpg. And now something else we should do is to set the background size to cover, which I'm sure you're also familiar with. So again, I do this trick. I just write back, then I start writing size, so return, and that's it. And cover is what I want here. And what cover does is that whatever the width of the viewport or the element, it will always try to fit the element inside of the box. So let's now take a look on what that looks like. So this one is it. Refresh, and here we go. So our background image, it adapts nicely to the viewport, I hope, and yeah, it does. And you see here this white bar, it's the remaining 5% of the viewport height. So 100% would fill everything, 95 fills just up until this point. And also here you can see the text, the some text that we put, and it's already styled with
น้อย viewport high เดี๋ยวถ้าลบออกไปถ้า100ก็จะเต็มโอเค viewport high
the Lato font family with the gray color and the 16 pixels in size. Now something else we could do here is to set the background position. So background position, and we can set it to top. So let's see what that does. So it looks like it did nothing, but actually it does, because what it does is to ensure that whatever the viewport size is, that this top of the image here always stays at the top of the container.
At the top of the container ไหนลองลบออกสิว่ะพอไม่มีไอ้ position top ปุ๊บเราจะเห็นได้ว่า background เนี่ยมันไม่ตามนะครับคือมันไม่ชิดบนนะแต่ถ้าเราใส่ top ปุ๊บเราเห็นไหมเนี่ยครับเวลาเราเรียนเราต้องลองไปด้วยเพื่อที่เราจะได้เข้าใจมากยิ่งขึ้นนะฮะ
So you see now here as we go up the bottom of the
สิ่งสำคัญเลยคือเราต้องเข้าใจที่เขาพูดด้วย มันถึงจะเรียนรู้เรื่องนะครับ
image gets cropped, but the top of the image stays the same, right? So it's this what I'm talking about. Now we could change it, so let's actually use the dev tools here right now, because this is a fundamental part of being a web developer, is using these Chrome dev tools. So let's see what it would look like if we set it to bottom. So now what happens?
อันนี้เขาก็ทดสอบให้ดูว่าถ้าเกิดว่า set background position เป็น bottom เห็นปะถ้าเป็น left right อะไรอย่างนี้โอเคครับนี่ชอบมาก
is that the bottom stays the same as we change the image size. So the bottom stays the same and it changes up there. Now what we also can do is to set it to center. Okay, and so what it will do now is to always stay at the center. And so it will now probably crop out at the top and at the bottom. So you see? Yeah, that's what happens now. So basically it's in the middle here now where it stays the same, but at the bottom and the top it is cropped out, you see?
Yeah,
alright, but we of course want it at the top. Okay, next up we want that nice green gradient all over the image. And how do we do that? We use background image again, because to specify gradients we always use the background image property. Now we already have the background image property here, with the image. So what can we do? We simply specify a second one. And what we do is to use the comma. Now we want the background to stay on top, and so it actually has to be the first background image that we specify. So we put our gradient here, and then, comma, the image, okay? So let's put actually the linear gradient here. So linear gradient, and then the colors that we want. And we actually have the colors up here.
อันนี้จะเป็นการเล่น gradient มีสีอยู่ข้างบน
So we start with the light green on one side. So I paste it here, and then comma, and on the other side the dark green. Okay, makes
ตัวนี้มา
sense. So we have basically two background images, one on top of the other. The first one is the linear gradient going from this color to this color, and then after that, so basically below that, is this hero image. Now another parameter that we can specify in the linear gradient is basically to where the gradient should go. So we can say to right. And so now CSS understands that it should start on the left side and go to the right.
to right to right ปึ๊บมาสวยงามจากซ้ายไปขวา เอ้า มันเด้งมาได้
Corner, starting probably at the left top, right? So let's see if that's what happens. And yeah, I hope you saw at the left top.
อ๋อ นี่จากขวามาซ้ายแล้วก็ลงล่างเดี๋ยวเราลองดูความเปลี่ยนแปลงจากตรงนี้ฝึกเห็นความเปลี่ยนแปลงไหมครับก็ทำแล้วเราบอกจุบมีความเปลี่ยนแปลงเกิดขึ้นเนี่ยมันชอบ
And
เด้ง
contains
มา
the entire web page and for 85, but we have to change to RGBA, okay? An opacity of 0.8, okay? I'm sure you're familiar with this RGBA, and I'm sure that your text editor, if you're not using Visual Studio Code, will do the same. So I just have to pull down this slider here, then until it gives me an opacity of 0.8, okay?
0.8เดี๋ยวทำไมไม่เป็น RGB อ่ะ what นี่ไงเป็นแล้วนะครับ 0.8 แต่ของเรานี่เป็นทศนิยม3ตำแหน่งเลยเหรอนี่โอ้โหครับต้องมีคอมมาตรงนี้ด้วยโอ้งงกับโค้ดสีเห็นละเห็นลางๆไหมเห็นแบ็คกราวด์ลางๆไหมเพราะว่ามันมี transparent 0.8 นะครับ
I'm sure you're familiar with this RGBA syntax. So basically RGBA means that we have here the R, G and B, so red, green and blue, and then the opacity value in the end, okay? And this color picker does this conversion automatically, so we no longer can use this hexadecimal header. So all we have to do
ผมรู้แล้วคือผมชอบเด้งไปกดโดนเลข1ก็แบบเวลาเปลี่ยนแท็บไงเห็นไหมเนี่ยเปลี่ยนปุ๊บต้องเอาคลิกเอาซะแล้วไม่ถึงไหนแล้วครับ
And how can we do that? Yeah, we have to change the opacity here. So let's actually clean this up a bit. So each argument has its own line. And then also this one on a separate.
โอเคเขาก็จะ clean code นิดหน่อยก็ทำตามเขาครับเป็นการเหมือนฝึกนิสัยเอานี้ลงมาด้วยสิ โอเคมันตามลงมาอยู่เนาะ
line so that it's easier to read a little bit. Okay, so again we have two background images. First this gradient going to right bottom with these two colors, and then the image below that. So let's see if that's the effect that we want. And yeah, that's pretty much how we want it to look
แต่ทำไมของเขามันดู
like.
ไม่
So
เป็นไร
let's check. Yeah, that's actually almost what it looks like. You see this small white thing here, this small white border that goes around this entire web page. You see, is actually also here. You can see that here it's light gray, but here it's white. So this white thing goes around the entire web page, and I think it gives everything a very nice look. And so let's do that as well. And it's actually really easy. All we have to do is to put a padding around the entire body. So padding 30 pixels. So the body element contains the entire web page, and so if we set a padding here, header
เผลอไปกดอีกแล้ว
padding 30 pixels. So the body element contains the entire web page, and so if we set a padding here, then this padding will get applied on the entire web page, just like this. So here we go. That's our 30 pixel padding here around the web page. Okay, so note that this is not a case of inheritance like we had here, because the padding is not getting inherited. All that's happening is that it's applying a 30 pixel padding around the entire body. Okay, alright, and now the last piece of the styling that we want to do for the header. So what we want is now this kind of wedge that we can
นี่แหละไอตรงเนี้ยครับตรงเนี้ย
see here. And what this is to simply clip out this part of the image that would otherwise be here. Okay, so let's now do that. And for that we use the really modern CSS property called clip path. Clip path. And what we do in here is to specify a polygon in which the image or the element will still be visible. So we use the polygon function. So polygon
เดี๋ยวเปลี่ยนสี color scheme ก่อน color theme เอาเป็นdark look nice เอาเป็นอะไรดีลองดูสิโมโนไกเป็น default dark แล้วกันนะฮะเพราะผมมองอันนี้ไม่ค่อยเห็นอยู่ไกลจอมากเกิน
And in here we define a bunch of coordinates which define this polygon. So for now let me just put some placeholders here like x and epsilon, and we're going to specify these later on. Okay, x and epsilon. But first we need to take a look at the image to see how it actually should work. So this is our image, and this is how we want the final version to look. Alright, so what are the 4 coordinates of this polygon where we want the element to still be visible? It's this one here, right? So we're gonna start here, this one, then here this coordinate, then this one, this corner, and then finally this one. And so all we need is to specify these 4 corners in order to obtain this polygon. And we're going to start here at the top left corner and then move clockwise. So this one first, then this one, then the third one, and then the
ตามเข็มนาฬิกา
final one. So in relation to this point here, where do we want the first point to be? We want it to be exactly here, right? So we don't want to move it anything in the x-axis. So it's just like this. This is x. And we don't want it to move in the epsilon axis. So also not this way. So it's just 0, 0. We want it to stay in the same place. So 0 and 0. Okay? So in the x direction, we don't want it to change. And in the epsilon direction, we also don't want it to change. So let's now take a look at the second point. So this one here.
อันแรกจะเป็นมุมไม่ต้องเปลี่ยนก็00
So counting from here, from the left side, we want it to change in the x direction, right? So all the way until this point we want the polygon to go, right? And so what is this point here? How far away is it from the left side? We can simply say it's 100%. So it's going to be 100% of the width of this element away from the left side, from here. Okay? So we can just say that x should be 100%. And now epsilon in the epsilon direction, we don't want to change it at all, right? Okay, and now the third coordinate is this one. So it's the same in the x direction, right? So it's still 100% in the x direction, but now the epsilon is what changes here. So let's just put some random number there, okay? So x is still the same 100%, and now from the top we want it to be at some point. Let's just say 50%. Or we could also specify this in pixels or in any other unit that we want. So for example, I can say 200 pixels, okay? Alright, and now the last coordinate is this one here, the fourth. So in x, we're back to 0 here, right? Because remember that this side here is the reference, and so we don't move anything in the x direction, so this way. We did move, however, in the epsilon direction, so going from here, we did all the way down to the end of the element. So we want 100%. So in x it's 0, and in epsilon it's 100%.
x0 100%.
And that's it. So let's see if this actually worked. And now,
whoa, oh,
here it is. Alright, great. So these are the 200 pixels that we specify here in this coordinate for the epsilon direction. Let's now inspect this element.
บอกเลยตรงนี้เนี่ยค่อนข้างจะ confuse นิดนึงนะครับ แต่ไม่เป็นไร
And we can now change here some stuff so that you can see how this changes. So imagine that here for the second coordinate, so this one here, we wouldn't put 100 pixels, but let's say, we wouldn't put 100%, but we would put, let's say, 500 pixel. Okay, that makes sense, right? Because we have 500 in the x direction and 0 in the epsilon direction. You can also change that, of course. Let's say we have 100 pixels here, then it looks like that. Alright? Now what I want you to try here is to make a triangle of this. Okay? I'm pretty sure that after this explanation you should already understand how it works, right? So try to pause the video and try to do a triangle here, okay? So did you manage to make it work? This is how I would do it. So let's just get rid of all of this. And now the first coordinate should be here in the center, right? So we have x 50% and on epsilon 0%, right? And now we want this bottom corner here, so x is 100% and epsilon is also 100%, right? And now finally it's this bottom corner here, and so here we have x0 and epsilon is 100%, so 0 and 100%. And here we go, so here we have our triangle, right? So if you want to make a triangle, it's like this. Now you can do lots of different things with this, and there's actually a very cool tool which is called the Clippy, this one here. And I'm going to put it on my resource reference page so that you can check it out later. And here you just need to click on one of these. Let's say we want a right arrow like this, okay, to get a bit crazy. And then all we have to do is to copy this CSS code here. Now let's just copy these numbers because we already have the clip path property written out, right? Just to make a final test, final experiment. All right, so
I like experiment.
It works like this, okay? So now we have an arrow. Okay, but we don't want any arrow. We just want our element to look like in the example page. And so here what we will do is not to specify a percentage, but the unit of viewport height, such as we did here for the height of the element. And so in here I will say 75% of the viewport height. Okay, so let's look how this looks like now.
75% of the viewport height. 75%. อันนี้พี่เรียนเรื่องCSS Advanced ครับน้องแบ็คต้องไปเรียนเบสิกก่อนนะ อันนี้พี่มาไกลแล้ว
And that's it. So now if we change the viewport height, it will also change dynamically.
อย่างเจ๋งอย่างเฟี้ยวว่า
This little interval here, right? And if I close this completely, then it looks like this, and it looks the exact same way as our original, right? See? That's how it looks like. Awesome. So I know this is a bit complicated to understand, this clip path property and the polygon we have to write, but try to wrap your head around it, and then it's actually not so complicated. So I hope that this first coding lecture of the course was quite fun, and that you already learned something new here. We're already making great progress, and to continue with this header, just come with me right to the next lecture. See you there.
เรียบร้อยครับครึ่งชั่วโมงผ่านไปอย่างรวดเร็วกว่าเรียนในห้องเยอะเลย Building the header part 2
In this lecture, we are going to continue building the header section of our project, using some CSS properties that you're already familiar with. And you're also going to learn the easiest way to center anything in CSS with transform, top, and left, which is something really important. So this is where we left top and left.
The easiest way to center anything with the transform, top and left properties,
which is something really important.
อันนี้พี่ย้ายบ้านมาแล้วครับใช่แล้ว
So this is where we left after the last lecture. So let's now take a look at the final product. And so what we're going to do in this lecture is to just add this small logo here, and then we're also going to add this heading here. So this is the plan for this lecture, and let's start with the image. So first off, in the HTML we actually have to add that image. So let's remove that text here, and what I'm going to do now is to add first a div, and then inside that div is where I'm going to put an image. Because the image is actually an inline element, and so I think it's a better practice to first have a small container where this image is inside, and then position that container to where we want the image and the container to be. So first I'm writing a div with a class of logo box, and then in here I'm going to put the image. So we go into the image folder, so img, and then from here the logo that we want is called logo white. So it's this one here. img and then logo white. And then we also give it an alt attribute, and remember that the alt attribute is to describe.
โอเคครับรีบนอนพรุ่งนี้ไปเรียนพรุ่งนี้ค่อยมาเรียนต่อนะครับค่อยๆเรียน
The image for SEO, so search engine optimization, but also for the case that somehow the image fails to load, and then on the website instead of the image appears this text, so that users can still see what the image that isn't there is all about. So I'm just going to put here logo. Then I'm also going to add a class and call it just logo. So we have a logo box and then logo.
Yep.
So let's now style it.
Let's now style it.
So first the logo box, and then the logo after that. And remember where we want to put the image, so it's here in this corner. And so one good way of doing this is to use absolute positioning. And I'm once again sure that you already know how absolute positioning works, but in the next section there's a big lecture which talks about the difference between absolute and relative positioning, and the normal flow and floats, and all of that stuff, so that you really understand how all of this works behind the scenes. Okay? But for now, let's just simply use the position absolute like you already know how to do. And we can then use top, bottom, left, and right properties to put the image exactly where we want it to be.
Yep.
So let's say we want the top to be 40 pixels and the left to be 40 pixels. Yep. Now, where does this measurement actually start? So from where, counting from where, is these 40 pixels?
เรื่อง position เนี่ยผมพี่เคยสอนแล้วนะครับก็ไม่ยากเท่าไหร่พวกproperty CSS เนี่ยพวกเนี้ยมันน่าสนใจมาก นี่แบบเรียนแล้วตื่นเต้นอะตื่นเต้นมากเลย
and also these 40 pixels. There has to be some kind of a reference, right? So
เหมือนกับความรู้สึกเหมือนกับว่าได้ไปเที่ยวเลยอะอะไรอย่างนั้นเลย
a place from which we start to count 40 pixels to the left and 40 pixels from the top, right? And that reference
right
is a parent element which has its positions set to relative. And so we should also do that. And remember that the header is the parent element, right? So logo box and the parent is the header. And so we should go to header and set its position to relative. Position relative. And so now this is the origin.
เมื่อไหร่ที่มี absolute ต้องมี relative นะครับไม่งั้นมันจะเกิดอาการโยกย้ายยับเรียบร้อยต้องกำหนดposition relative ไว้ที่ตัวเขาเรียกว่าตัว element parent นะครับelement parent ในที่นี้ก็คือ header ซึ่ง header เนี่ยมันเป็น element parent เพราะว่ามันคุมทุกตัวเนี่ยที่อยู่ในเนี่ยนะครับดังนั้นถ้าเกิดว่าเราจะใช้ position absolute กับ element ใดสักตัวหนึ่งเราต้องมี position relative อยู่คือมันเป็นคือมันเป็น standard อยู่แล้ว relative จะต้องคู่กับ absolute นะครับอย่างที่เห็นถ้าเราไม่ใช้ปุ๊บไม่ทำงานทันทีนะครับ position absolute จะไม่ทำงานแต่ถ้าเรามี position relative มาปุ๊บมันจะทำงานนะครับ
so the reference from which top and left start to count okay
โอ้ปวด
now just before we check
มานะครับแบบปวดปีกเลยพรุ่งนี้ก็น่าจะหยุดสักวันหนึ่งแล้วค่อยไปออกกำลังกายต่อนะครับขอนั่งดีๆก่อนเดี๋ยวจัดระเบียบแป๊บมานั่งดีๆดีกว่าโอเคนะครับวันนี้เราจะยาวๆไปด้วยกันเพราะว่าพรุ่งนี้มันวันหยุดนะฮะอย่างน้อยดู channel นี้ถึงจะไม่ได้อะไรวะถึงคืออย่างน้อยขอให้ได้ความรู้กลับไปนะครับ
If this already looks good, let's just specify the size of the image itself. So we say height 35 pixels. That should be okay. And then the width will scale accordingly. So we don't even have to specify it. All we do is to specify the height, and the width will be automatically figured out by the browser. We could instead also set the width, and then the height would be figured out by the browser, but I'd prefer to do it like this. I always prefer to
นอนเหมือนเดิมดีกว่ารู้สึกว่ามันไม่คอนเซนเทรตนอนเหมือนเดิมดีกว่า มันรู้สึกแบบโฟกัสมากกว่านั่งแล้วมันยังไงไม่รู้อะโอเคเดี๋ยวหัน
to control the height of the elements. So let's now take a look. And indeed, there it is. Okay. Let's now take this. I always
โลโก้ทำกำหนดไฮเพื่อให้มันเล็กลงนะฮะเดี๋ยวเมื่อกี้ลืมฟังเขาพูดเลย
start to count. Okay. Now just before we check if this already looks good, let's just specify the size of the image itself. So we say height 35 pixels. That should be okay. And then the width will scale accordingly. So we don't even have to
ก็คือเมื่อไหร่ที่เราเซตความสูงให้กับตัว div เนี่ยก็คือimg มันมีคลาสโลโก้ใช่ไหมครับทีนี้เราเซตความสูง35ปุ๊บความกว้างมันก็จะย่อตามก็จะทำให้รูปภาพเนี่ยมันสเกลมันก็อยู่เหมือนเดิมแต่แค่เล็กลง
to specify it. All we do is to specify the height, and the width will be automatically figured out by the browser. We could instead also set the width, and then the height would be figured out by the browser, but I prefer to do it like this. I always prefer to control the height of the elements. So let's now take a look. And indeed, there it is. Okay,
there it is.
So this part is completed. Let's now take care of this primary heading that we have here. So this one here, right? So back to the HTML, right after this logo box, we will have our primary heading. So I'm going to use the h1 element and call it heading primary. Alright, now let's actually go back to take a look at how we want this. So we want it basically to have two parts. So we have this entire text here, but this is all the h1. Remember that the h1 is the single most important heading on the page, which is important for Google or for any other search engine to figure out what our web page is all about. And so it's important that we basically put the title of our web page in there. Now we could only just put outdoors in there, so make this the h1 and then, for example, make an h2 here for the secondary header and put this is where life happens in there. But that's not what we want, because we don't want our primary text or title of the website to say just outdoors, right? We want all of this text. And so we must somehow divide this text. So what are we going to do? We are going to use the span element. And the span element is perfect for this because remember that a span is simply to style some text differently. And so we can just put two span elements in here, one for each part, one for the top and one for the bottom. So span class heading primary main, and then the same for the part in the bottom. So let's call it sub.
มัน copy ยังไงวะโอเค
So the first one says outdoors, and down here
doors
is where life happens.
is
So
where
that's basically the slogan of the company.
live.
And with that, we're good to go and to format this text. So heading primary, let me already copy it. And then also main, and then also for the sub. So the first thing that we want is the color to be white, and that is just this FFF code. So in RGB, FFF is basically the same as saying this one here, okay? And you see that both of them are the complete white. So the presence of all the colors at the same time. So it's complete red, complete green, and complete blue. Okay, but this is enough. Now another thing that we want is the text to be uppercase. So we say text transform uppercase. And for now that should be enough. Let's just take a look. And alright, so our text is already here, it's already white. It's not quite where we want it to be, but we're going to take care of that later. Next, what we want to do is to put this on top and this below it, right? So we want outdoors on top, and then after that, this part here. Also, this text should be bigger and this one smaller. And also, as you see, it has this huge spacing here. So I did this to make it look really big, to give it some space to breathe. I think this looks like outdoors. It looks great with all this spacing. That's why I decided to go this way. So let's style it like this in the code here. So what should we do in order to put these two parts of the text one under another? Do you have any idea of a good way of doing this? I think the best way is to display them both as block level elements. Because remember that block elements occupy the entire width that they have available, and more important, somehow the image fails to load, it will have to be a bit different. To add this button here, another block it occupies. Okay, and so we use the display property, display, and display it as a block.
คือ span เนี่ยมันจะเป็น inline level element นะครับทีนี้เขาจะทำให้มันเป็น block level element เพื่อที่จะทำให้ตัวอักษรมันเหมือนกับเว้นบรรทัดไม่ต้องต่อกันแบบนี้เพราะว่าตอนนี้เราใช้ span อยู่ก็มันจะต่อกันเพราะว่า span มันเป็น inline level element นี่เขาใช้
Simple as
กัน
that. And the same thing down here
display
for the other span element. Display
Nice.
and also block. So that solves that part. Now they need different font sizes. So let's set this one to 60 pixels. Give it a font weight of 400 because by default the H1 has a higher font weight, okay? And then we also give it a letter spacing of, let's say, 35 pixels. Okay, and now similar specifications down here for the sub part of the H1. So a font size in this case of 20 pixels, font weight of 400 as well, and the letter spacing I'm going to put it to 15 pixels just to try it out. Then if it doesn't look good, we can always come back and adjust it.
Wow,
So I'm going to reload.
this just look good.
And alright, it already looks pretty good. Let's take a look at the inspector here, so to see what's happening here.
อ่ะ
And indeed, so this is now a block and this is another block. It occupies 100.
นี่เห็นไหมครับมันก็เป็นบล็อกละทั้งคู่เป็นบล็อก level element ละถ้าเกิดเอา display ออกมันจะกลายเป็น inline ทันที
1% of the width, as you can see in the blue box, exactly like a block element should behave. And of course, this also forces them into another line. Now we need to slightly increase the letter spacing here. So 17 looks good. Maybe 17.5.
ทีนี้เราก็มาใช้developer tool ในการ debug ตัว CSS ให้มันโอเคขึ้นนิดนึง17เมื่อกี้เขา 17.5 ใช่ไหมเราก็เอาตามเลย17.5 ครับสวยงาม
17.4. Okay, so that looks about right. So let's memorize this. So 7.4. And then also the weight of the font here looks a bit too thin here compared to that one. Okay, so let's also increase that. So letter spacing is 17.4 pixels. And now let's take a look at which weight we actually have available. So we have 100, 300, 400, 700, and 900. So these are the font weight
เขาให้ฟอนต์เวทเรามาถึง 900
that are loaded for this specific Lato font. So we had 400, so let's now jump up to 700.
เปลี่ยนตัวนี้เป็น 700 Bam ไม่วะ
Taking a look again. And yeah, so that looks
เดี๋ยวลดนี้ลงมาเหมือนเขาแล้วกัน
much better now. Alright, and with that formatted, we should now find a way to make this displayed exactly in the center, right? Now, of course, this should stay exactly in the center, no matter what the screen size is. So no matter the width and no matter the height of the window, right? No matter what height we have for the screen, we always want this to stay in the middle, because of course we're building a responsive website here. And more about that later again. But for now, what we need to focus on is to put this text here exactly here in the center. So let's find out how we're going to do that. Now, first off, let's go back to our markup here in HTML, because we're actually going to put all of this in a different box, in a container, because we're going to add something more into this box later on. I can actually show you. We're going to add this button here, also in the same box, which also should stay in the center by then. Alright, so we cannot just center this part here, but we're going to center an entire box like this. I'm going to show you. So this entire box here is what we're going to do and to center. Going to do. And to center. So let's just call it text box for now. And then I'm going to put all of this inside. So text box is what we're going to style next. Putting it here just to follow the natural order of the HTML. So text box. So what is the best way to exactly center that box in the middle of our header? And the answer is that once again we're going to use absolute positioning. Alright, so position absolute again. Now about the top and the left, they will have to be a bit different. And I'm going to show you how. So we start by saying top 50% and left 50%. And just to illustrate this a bit better, I will actually put a background color here, okay? Background color. Something, it doesn't really matter. So I'm just putting red here. And now I'm going to show you what happens.
Bam.
Alright, so this is not quite where we want it to be, right? But actually the code did what we wanted. Because this here is clearly 50% from the left, right? This part of the box.
ทีนี้ก็50แต่ว่ามันไม่ได้อยู่ตรง
Which is where the measure starts. So where the 50% starts counting. It's from this side all the way to this side. And it's 50%. It's half of the element, half of the header. That's what left 50% means. It's 50% of the width of the parent element. And it's actually working. And the same thing applies to the top. So it's from here to here, it's actually 50%. It's half of the height of the parent. Now what we want to do in order for this to be exactly in the center is to shift this just a little bit so that the center of this box is here in the center, is here, right? That's where we want it. So we want this middle of the box to be just here where now the beginning of the box is. And the same thing applies to the height. So we want this center here of the box, this horizontal center, we want it to be here where the box now begins. So another way what we want is to translate this entire box. And it's actually pretty easy to do. We just need to use the transform property in CSS. Transform and translate. Translate. And now we just need to specify how much we want to translate on x and on epsilon. And what we want is minus 50% for both. And that's it. And that's because these 50% are now no longer in relation to the parent element, but of the element itself. And so if we say we want minus 50%, it will be shifted half of the width to the left side. And the same for the height. So minus 50% says that it will be shifted 50% of the element's height to the top. And so here it is.
มันตรงกลางเปล่าวะเนี่ยตรงกลางเลยเนาะ
It's now exactly at the middle, vertically and also horizontally. It's completely in the middle now.
อันนี้ไม่ต้องตกใจนะครับว่าทำไมแบบมันไม่เหมือนของเขามันเป็นอย่างนี้อยู่แล้วเพราะว่าหน้าจอของเขากับของเรามันไม่เท่ากันของคนสอนเนี่ยน่าจะกว้างกว่าของผมนะครับ
Now because of this wedge that we cut out here, it looks a bit weird. It looks like it's actually more down than where it should be, right? It looks like it should be like somewhere here. And so instead of shifting it down 50%, maybe we can just do 40%. So we say that the top should be 40%, and then that should fix our problem.
เราต้องขยับของเรานี่ต้องขยับเยอะเลยแหละนะครับสัก25น่าจะโอเคนี่ได้อยู่ลองวัดดูดิมันประมาณไหนวะ335
So this looks actually a lot better. And just to confirm that everything works as expected, you can just see that this nicely adapts to when we decrease.
When we decrease, when we increase. สวยงาม
The screen size. The same, we'll just do it like this. The same happens with the viewport height. So it always stays nicely, not exactly in the center, but at these 40% top where we specified it to be. Alright, so you learned a great new trick. Maybe you had already used it because I taught it in my other course as well, but I think I didn't explain it this well. So I thought it was important to make it really clear how this works, because it's really important. You can now use these concepts for other things, because now you totally understand how this worked. So again, just to make everything 100% sure, these 40% and these 50%, they are in relation to the parent element.
ที่เราใช้ absolute ได้เพราะว่าอะไรครับ text box มันก็อยู่ใน header คือ element parent header มีอยู่แล้วใช่ไหมมี position relative อยู่แล้วก็ใช้ absolute ได้เรื่อยๆตราบใดที่child element มันยังอยู่ CSS ไม่ขึ้นนะครับต้องไปเช็คดูเลยครับผมเพราะว่าถ้าทำตามไม่ขึ้นน่าจะเขียนผิดหรือเปล่า
So 50% of the parent element is where the text box was located to the left side. But on the transform here, when we translate it, this is in relation to the element itself. And this makes it possible that the element is exactly at the center. Alright, and that's enough for this lecture. Next time we're going to do this little nice animation that we see here when we reload the page. So this. You saw it coming in from the left side and this one from the right side. Let's do it again. This entrance animation here, that's what we're going to do next, which is really exciting, I think. So stay tuned and see you in a second.
Stay tuned and see you in the next section. Okay. เรียบร้อยนะครับเดี๋ยวดูเวลาก่อนชั่วโมงพอดีเลยนะฮะผมรู้แล้วว่าทำไมมันถึงไม่ขึ้นมันน่าจะเกิดปัญหา CSS มันไม่ใช่ CSS browser มันเก็บ cache ไว้เยอะแล้วทีนี้มันทำให้เขียน CSS ปุ๊บพอ refresh มันทำให้ CSS ไม่ทำงานนะครับเอางี้ดีกว่าเดี๋ยวผมทำคลิปแก้ให้ดีกว่าเพราะว่าผมรู้แล้วมันเกิดจากปัญหาอะไรบางคนบอกว่าเขียนตามถูกทุกอย่างเลยเป๊ะแต่ว่า CSS มันไม่ทำงานผมรู้แล้วว่ามันเกิดจากเพราะว่าเบราว์เซอร์มันเก็บแคชไว้เยอะทีนี้พอเราเนี่ยครับมันจะเป็นอย่างนี้ตลอดผมก็เป็นนะแต่ผมรู้วิธีแก้ที่จริงมันก็ไม่ได้ยากอะไรแต่เดี๋ยวผมจะทำที่จริงผมมีวิดีโออยู่เดี๋ยวผมจะแต่เราโอเคนะที่นายสอนเข้าใจเลยขอบคุณมากครับผมอันนี้ดูคลิปไหนครับเนี่ยวันหลังช่วยอธิบายให้ละเอียดใช่ครับผมพยายามทุกคลิปเนี่ยพยายามทำให้มันแบบละเอียดที่สุดเพราะว่าคนดูจะได้แบบปฏิภาณclear CSS cat ผมเคยทำไว้อยู่ดีวิดีโอเนี้ยนี่ไงวิธี clear cache เมื่อ CSS ไม่อัปเดตนะครับลองไปใช้ผมว่ามันน่าจะเป็นที่ปัญหานี้แน่นอนเดี๋ยวทำไว้นานแล้วแหละแต่ว่ามันเป็นเรื่องแบบเส้นผมเหมือนเส้นผมบางภูเขาครับบางคนเขาไม่ได้สนใจแต่ว่าผมสนใจเรื่องเล็กๆน้อยๆผมคิดว่ามือใหม่ต้องเจอครับนี่ผมก็เรียนคอร์ส CSS Advanced อยู่เดี๋ยวจะมีสอนใน Channel แน่นอนนะครับสำหรับคนที่ติดตามเดี๋ยวผมก็จะออกคอร์สเกี่ยวกับการแปลง PSD เป็น HTML อยู่เร็วๆนี้นะฮะเพราะว่าต้องหารายได้ พูดตรงๆเลยหาเงินนั่นเองครับลองเอาไปดูเพราะว่าผมคิดว่ามันน่าจะเกิดจากปัญหาตรงนี้ลองไปทำดูผมคิดว่าน่าจะหายแน่นอนเดี๋ยวผมยกตัวอย่างให้ดูดีกว่าเดี๋ยวคอร์สก็จบไว้เอาไว้แค่นี้ก่อนแล้วกันถึงไหนcreate cool CSS animation โอเคแค่นี้นะครับเดี๋ยวเรามาต่อพรุ่งนี้แล้วกันก็เดี๋ยว Sublime เปิด Sublime ขึ้นมาเดี๋ยวผมจะลองให้ดูว่ามันเป็นยังไงนะฮะปัญหานี้ปิดตัวโปรแกรมเฉยเลย โอเคก็เดี๋ยวผมจะสร้างไฟล์ index ขึ้นมาเอาสร้างโฟลเดอร์ขึ้นมาดีกว่า test นะฮะก็มีไฟล์ index มีไฟล์ css ไม่ซับลามนี่นะครับก็เราลิงก์ css มาแล้วใช่ป่ะทีนี้สมมุติว่าผมจะสร้างอะไรสักตัวดิฟสักตัวหนึ่งที่ไม่ต้องมีคลาสหรอกเอาดิฟปกตินั่นแหละนะครับทีนี้ผมก็ลองเปิดหน้าเว็บขึ้นมาปุ๊บนะฮะทีนี้ผมจะใส่ css เข้าถึงดิฟตัวนี้กำหนดความกว้างมันสัก500ความสูงสักออโต้แล้วกันนะครับแล้วก็แบ็กกราวด์เลสปุ๊บทีนี้ลองรีเฟรชอันนี้คือมันมานะฮะอันนี้มันมาแต่ถ้าเกิดว่าเราเนี่ยเราลิงก์ CSS ถูกเขียนเป๊ะแล้วมันไม่มาเนี่ยรีเฟรชปุ๊บมันยังอยู่อยู่แบบนี้เหมือนเดิมเนี่ยให้เรามาทำแบบนี้นะฮะก็คือกด F12 บนคีย์บอร์ดหรือไม่ก็คลิกขวาแล้วก็ตรวจสอบนะฮะให้เรามาที่อันนี้เขาเรียกว่า developer tool นะฮะ Chrome developer tool มาที่ network แล้วก็มาติ๊กที่ disable cache ตรงนี้นะฮะติ๊กปุ๊บทีนี้เราก็ refresh เว็บ1 ครั้ง CSS มาเลยเหมือนแบบมันเหมือนเป็นแบบเหมือนเป็นเวทมนต์นะครับอันนี้ก็คือบางทีมันก็เป็นบางทีมันไม่เป็นไงเบราว์เซอร์บางทีมันก็เป็นอย่างเงี้ยมันนะครับก็รู้ไว้มันจะได้แบบว่าให้จำใส่แบบ keep in mind เลยว่าถ้ามันเป็นอย่างเงี้ยคือ cat browser มัน cat คือแบบ cat เยอะแล้วทีนี้มันก็ทำให้ CSS ไม่ทำงานนะครับก็วิธีแก้ก็ประมาณนี้มันเหมือนเป็นปัญหาโลกแตกแต่ก่อนผมก็เจอแบบว่าเขียน CSS ถูกหมดแล้วมันไม่ทำงานว่าบางทีเราหงุดหงิดไงเราเป็นมือใหม่โอ้แค่ CSS แบบบางทีโทษตัวเองนะฮะว่าแบบทำไม่ได้ว่าอะไรเงี้ยแต่มันมีทางแก้นะครับก็ใจเย็นๆครับผมลองไปทำดูผมคิดว่ามันน่าจะเป็นตรงนี้แน่นอนนะครับก็ยังไงขอบคุณทุกคนมากครับที่มาดูวันนี้จริงๆผมว่าจะเรียนต่อนะแต่ว่าเผื่อแบบมันมีอะไรนะครับโอเคก็เดี๋ยวเจอกันพรุ่งนี้ครับเผื่อน่าจะมาสตรีมเหมือนเดิมนะ1 ชั่วโมงวันนี้ก็ขอบคุณทุกคนนะครับเจอกันพรุ่งนี้บ๊ายบาย